If you're looking for meaningful ways to support the veterinary community this gifting season and discover some pretty incredible resources along the way, I've created something special just for you. For the third year in a row, Vet Life Reimagined has released a free, downloadable gift guide featuring books, games, and products created by past podcast guests. These are veterinary professionals who've taken their expertise beyond the clinic to create tools that educate, inspire, and bring a little bit of light to the world. New this year, I've also added a section with budget-friendly gift ideas for animal lovers. Perfect if you want to be intentional about where your money goes and get a really special gift. Whether you're ready to buy now or save ideas for later, you can download the guide for free using the link in the show notes and support the people who support our profession every single day. Happy holidays.
You can really set your own story. If you set your mind to something, you don't have to listen when people say, you can't do this. You essentially have to be old to be successful.
Welcome to Vet Life Reimagined. As we near the end of the year and get to our episode about the year ahead in vet med, we have some episodes of people in the profession who are shaping what the future of veterinary medicine is going to look like, and they're doing it right now. Last week, we spoke with Dr. Ede Hanks of MyRNA, and today's guest is absolutely another one of those individuals, Dr. Andrew Findlaytor. Andrew once swore he would never become a veterinarian, but his dad dropped him off as a teenager to shadow a veterinary practice, and there was an intense bulldog C-section that changed everything. Since then, he's lived a wide range of veterinary experiences, all with the goal to solve interesting challenges and make the profession better. He's worked in general practice, emergency, research, relief across nearly 100 hospitals, and eventually helped scale Rue, one of the most influential relief platforms in vet med. Now he's channeling all of that experience into building tools and companies for the next era of our profession, including Vetsie, an AI-powered clinical resource designed to support vets in real-time decision-making and client communication, and Pawsible Ventures, an incubator for veterinary entrepreneurs. Andrew's career path is a great example of possibilities in veterinary medicine, but make sure you catch how he thinks. Curious, determined, not afraid to ask questions, and try new things even when people say it's not possible. So let's get to the conversation with Dr. Andrew Findlaytor. Welcome, Andrew, to Vet Life Reimagined. Super excited to have you on the podcast. We've known each other for a little while. It's just taken us this long to actually do an interview with you. But one of the places that I love to start with people is, when did you know you were interested in veterinary medicine? And you told me, because I kind of teed you up to this question, that when you were young, you thought that all they did was play with puppies and kittens. And so veterinarians was not exactly what you had in your mind. You had something else. But let us know a little bit about your childhood and what you thought about vet med.
Yeah, I love it. You're like one of 5 people in the world who know my secret origin story, as it was. So yes, growing up, I loved animals. I wanted to be a marine biologist and take photos of underwater animals, basically like make Blue Planet on Discovery before it existed. And the number one thing I promised I would never be was a veterinarian, because I thought, as a know-it-all 12-year-old boy, all 12-year-old boys I feel like are know-it-all, veterinarians, just like you said, play with puppies and kittens, gave your dog vaccines, put a thermometer in your dog's butt, which I was like, that's kind of weird. And just, I thought it was a very simple job. And I told my dad and mom, like, I'm going to be a man of science. I'm going to change the world for animals. And my dad, who loves me, was like, hey, if you go take pictures of fish underwater, I think you're going to live at home forever. And that's not okay. So I got dropped off at my local veterinary office. They were great. That's where I took my dog when I was 16. And that very first day, Megan, there was this bulldog C-section. There was placenta everywhere. Everyone came out good, but there was like 8 puppies, which, for a bulldog is a lot. So they're like, we need you help resuscitating and clearing nasal passages. We were giving atropine. And from that moment on, like, I was 100% head over heels sold. I could think of nothing else other than being a vet, because I realized, like, wow, these are the ultimate doctors. They do everything for all species. And so from that day on, that clinic couldn't get rid of me. I started volunteering, got a job there. And that's how my amazing story in vet med started, was being a know-it-all and getting covered in C-section fun.
Well put. I did want to highlight your dad for a second, because you also told me that you're first generation immigrant family. So, I think our parents have a big impact on us in our start. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your parents and maybe some of the things that you learned from them that you took forward?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very thankful. I've got two amazing parents. They always loved me and did good. My mom and dad met in the Air Force. My dad moved to the U.S. from Jamaica when he was 12, give or take. Grew up on the rough side of New York. Jumped into the Air Force. That's where I met my mom. My dad, obviously being Jamaican, is quite dark skin complexion. My mom is a 5 foot nothing Italian woman, and so like my mama wore combat boots. They worked on the flight deck, and again, really was raised well. We always had this mindset that whatever we do, we should be building for the betterment of people. We want to make a difference. And also, we should always try to own or build businesses. My dad always told me, like, there's nothing wrong with being an employee, but there's nothing quite as satisfying as looking at something and being like, you made this, like, you made a difference. And so I always had that draw to try to build and own something to kind of leave my mark. As a know it all 17-year-old, much different than a know it all 12-year-old, I was like, I'm going to own not one, but two veterinary hospitals. And in doing so, I'll change the world for my community. And that's still a goal of mine, honestly. We've talked about this before, Megan. Like, there's still a big part of me that's like, yeah, but one day I'll still own a clinic. But as I got older and saw more of the world, I was like, well, how could I help even more people? If I could see 20 appointments a day at a veterinary hospital, how could I help 200, 2,000, whatever it may be? So I credit them a lot with setting me off on a good path of, hey, work hard, figure out how you want to make a difference, and then go at it 110%. Well,
Yeah, and I love the phrase. I wrote it down that you said is if you want to make a difference in the world, be a leader. And I think
yeah.
that can look like a lot of different things as well. But being a leader is an opportunity to really make a difference in a lot of different ways. I love that. Now, another thing that you said that you noticed when you were young, and it didn't seem to deter you at least too much, was that you said that there was an old school vet who kept talking about burnout when it came to vet med. Do you mind sharing a little bit about like how you interacted with that? Did you keep that in mind as you went forward? Did that impact you at all?
Yeah, I actually just got to talk about this at the lecture I was just giving too a little bit, but from a different angle. So again, that veterinarian that I had the C-section expedition with, we'll say, I kept going there. I was two old school veterinarians, really great guys. Again, I credit them so much with setting me on the right medical path. They gave me a lot of great hands-on training, a lot of advice. When I told them I wanted to go to vet school, they kind of cautioned me. They were like, Andrew, a lot of vets are kind of burnt out. We have terrible work-life balance, terrible hours. Like it's a lot of work. There's easier paths in life. And although I appreciated their warning, and I know their warning was well intended, but they could clearly see how much I love vet med. And to be clear, they both still to this day love vet med. They retired like 10 years ago, and I still see them posting on Facebook, check out this thing I just did. So like, they very much love the profession, but it kind of made me scratch my head and get excited and be like, well, everywhere I look, all the vets and techs and everyone in this field that I know is really smart, hardworking, and passionate. Surely if there's problems that are causing this burnout, we can fix them. Again, we can do it. I have that can do attitude. So yeah, that's what really sparked my interest of being like, well, there's a lot of ways we can help pets. I wonder how we could help the profession, how we could help vets and techs and pets all together. So that was, again, could have been a speed bump in my life, but really turned into a motivator for every project that I jumped on from there out.
Well, I'm glad you took that perspective. And maybe it opened it up to, not only can we do really cool things with the animals, but there's like that people component that it seemed to plant maybe a little bit too, as there's an opportunity to do a lot of good in the world for people and pets maybe, or animals in general.
It's true. And again, I give them credit to other things too. There's just something we said for kind of cranky old guys. Like, yeah, they can sometimes be hard to work with, but man, they drop these nuggets of truth sometimes. I was just lecturing earlier today about AI, and again, the doctor, I won't say his name to like verge guy, but the doctor used to never let me use a calculator. He'd be like, Andrew, we're giving Clavamox to this dog. The dose is 13.75 mg per kg, and it's an 8 kilogram dog. What's the dosage? And he always made us do it in our head. And finally asked him, like, okay, are you trying to make me feel dumb? Like, why are you doing this? And he was like, well, you need to understand what the answer should be, because the calculator is going to tell you exactly what you put into it. So if I'm doing 13.7 times 8, but I accidentally pushed like times 2 or whatever, the calculator is going to tell me a number. If I don't know any better, I'm not going to catch that. So again, little nuggets of truth that he gave me, which is like, be comfortable understanding the logic of what you're trying to do, and then use technology to make it faster. After I proved I could do it, then I could use a calculator, but it made it a lot easier to be like, oh, I caught a sig fig error. I added one too many decimals, because mentally I was trying to think about where I'm going and then double check.
Yeah. Thank you. So you did, you went to UC Davis, and as I say, a little bit of a lifer. You did undergrad and then stuck around for vet school afterwards.
Yep.
And one thing that I noticed just like looking at your LinkedIn is you did a lot of different research. Like you are a research assistant, you did several different internships around research. I know you also said you in your head you had practice ownership in mind, but was this also an intriguing area of vet med that you were exploring, or what intrigued you?
Yeah. For a little while, I was almost, we'll say, all in on research. And again, it's that core thing of solving problems and building new paths forward, being a leader in the industry, as it were. So in the beginning, I didn't know too much about research, but then as I started to work around Davis, there's plenty of opportunities to jump into research. I picked it up even in undergrad as a summer job. And then I started to learn like, wow, we're pushing the forefront of known science of medicine. Like that's so exciting. We're working on chronologically categorizing every single gene a mouse has to know like, hey, these genes are related to Alzheimer and these genes are related to Cushing's. And how could that apply to people? Then we started working on goats, and it's like we're working on regrowing hyaline articular cartilage in goats, which, I mean, Megan, like that's the cartilage you can't grow back. If we could do that, we could defeat arthritis forever for people, for animals. So that, and I get excited talking about it now. That kind of stuff that gets me so excited. I'm like, what if we, or how might we like change the world by fixing this disease? So that's what really led me to research. I went so far that I actually got selected for a lab animal residency. Like I was going to go that route. But this is what I encourage new grads with. It's important to try things. It's important to find out what you can do, not just what you like. As much as I love the cool research, I lived in a basement for like years at a time with no windows, very few people. All the people who I worked with were very nice, but like the deepest of introverts. And so after a while, I was like, I remember because I was working at MIT, I went an entire month, Megan, without seeing the sun. Because I went to work before the sun came up. I was 4 stories underground. I came home after the sun went down, and I was just like, I can't do it. I love it. This is cool. I can't be a researcher. I need people. I need sunlight. I need the ability to be bubbly in myself. And the lab mice just don't appreciate the bubbly personality as much as some vets and techs do. So I still think research is cool. And anytime I get to work or collaborate on a project that has a research wing, I get giddy. But yes, that's what brought me back up to the surface, we'll say.
Oh, but I guess does that also, well, no, let me back up because you're going through vet school, and because I like this about you is when you're not afraid to try things, but you also do a little bit of like calculated research too, like before you just like jump into something. And you're really good at asking questions and like being observant and looking at other people in these situations. And I kind of caught that as you were about to graduate. You said a lot of people said, well, if you're going to be your best self or your best vet, you have to do an internship. And so you said you were kind of watching the class ahead of you as they were going out into the world and then asking them after internships, and didn't quite like that picture. So what was your perspective of thinking about an internship and maybe your next step?
Yeah. So for better or worse, my parents will tell you it was hard to parent. As a leader, it's my job to try to think outside the box and not assume just because everyone took this path that it really is the best path. And so again, getting towards graduation, I had research, I had general practice, I had ER, I had just all these exciting things. And so I don't mind being honest and saying, I want to be happy in life. Happy can take a lot of different forms, but if someone's really happy, I'm usually like, well, what are you doing? What's got you so chipper? So I continued to network and talk to, even when I was like second year, people who are graduating, doing internships. And as much as I love and am proud of Davis, they're a very internship focused school. They're very much like the best thing you could ever do with your life is do an internship and then a residency, maybe 2 or 3 residencies. And there's a lot of triple boarded people cruising around there. But as I continued to talk to people who did internships, I noticed a concerning pattern, Megan. A lot of them were burnt out, miserable. Some would try to put on a brave face and be like, hey, I'm exhausted. I've been working 6 or 7 days a week and my life sucks. But I'm sure I'm learning things. And that always caught my eye too. It wasn't, yes, I'm learning a lot of things. It was, but I'm sure, right? Like they told me I'm learning a lot of things. I'm sure this will pay off. And that was enough to make me be like, I don't actually know that I need to do an internship. If I don't want to do a residency, which at that point I was leaning towards no, the most important thing is for me to have good clinical skills, good communication skills. But I bet, and that was the risk I was willing to take, that I can get that a lot of different ways. And so I leaned towards an internship or not doing an internship. I didn't do one. And again, I don't mind being honest. A lot of my classmates did internships, and a good chunk of them, Megan, dropped out mid-year because they were like, this sucks. This is miserable. I feel like I'm just working and not gaining the skill sets I wanted. And I was able to technically be like, it's not bad out here. Like you can get mentors. You don't have to do a formal internship for 30 grand a year all the time. So
And it does sound like you kind of took that approach as like, I can kind of make this. So you started in a general practice,
yep.
and you mentioned they also had a good dental practice with it too. But then also, because you're a little bit of an overachiever, I think you were working 4 days a week and you're like, is there something else? So what was your thought process there?
Yeah, exactly. Like you said. So it's always like, well, here's the box. How can I think outside of it without being too crazy? So the goal of an internship is increased training. You want to see a lot of cases. You want to have good mentorship, and you want to work a lot because repetition builds confidence. And so I was like, well, I'm sure I can kind of make my own internship. So I found a full-time job at a great hospital. They were a general practice. They had mentorship in place. But they also had a fully dedicated dentistry wing with like board certified dentists. I don't mind raising my hand and saying I sucked in vet school at dentistry. Like you wouldn't think teeth would be that complicated, but for whatever reason, it just didn't click. And I don't like having weakness. It bothers me a lot. So for me personally, other people can have it, but I don't want any. Where I was like, well, let's go get good at dentistry, Andrew. So I took a job, like you said, there full time, 4 days a week. But after just 4 or 5 months, actually probably a little bit before that, I kind of was like, this is easier than vet school is. I mean, vet school is really hard work. 4 days a week, like 9 to 5, 9 to 6, this is pretty cush. I could probably push myself a bit harder and learn more. So I started poking around. I reached out to my mentor and I was like, hey, I kind of want to learn emergency. Do you recommend I wait 2 years and get good at GP? And he gave me very good advice. He's like, Andrew, learning ER is stressful. It's new. It's uncomfortable. You're already stressed out, new and uncomfortable as a new grad. You may as well just embrace it all and do it all at once. I see a lot of people who say they're going to learn ER 2 or 3 years later. They get comfortable and then they never do. And I was like, you're right. That makes a lot of sense. So I reached out to my local ER, told them about my experience. I was a tech for 6 years already. I want to learn. They were like, well, you seem, the guy's name, great guy, another old guy as it were, but a great guy, Mike Johnson. He was like, well, you seem kind of competent. We could probably keep an eye on you. So yeah, we'll start having you work shifts. So I started working 1 and 2 days a week there to eventually get up to 6 days a week. But instead of feeling burnt out, Hagen, I felt so energized, so excited. During my GP shifts, I was learning GP work and I could talk to my mentors on a regular basis. That ER at the time had 22 doctors, so I had plenty of veterinary mentors there, right? To talk me through cases. In my first 6 months out of graduating, I was doing GDVs, splenectomies, learning how to do splints and even some orthopedic, like fracture repair and stuff like that. No TPLOs, but like orthopedic repairs. It just was such a big year. And so as I'm texting my intern mates who are doing their internship, they're like, I haven't done a C-section or a GDV. I haven't done any of that stuff. Like I'm just triaging and soaping and everything else. So I feel really proud that I had a really good internship-like year. I pushed myself. I learned a lot. I got paid well because I had 1.5 jobs basically. And then at the end of that year, I felt confident and excited about the profession rather than tired trying to figure out how I was going to recover after all of that, as it were.
So at the end of the year, you said, I mean, you felt good. You feel like you've learned a lot, but it also, like the way you said it is almost like, okay, I've learned. Now,
Yep.
now what?
Now what?
So what was the now what?
Yeah. So again, at this point, I was like, okay, I'm not doing research, still figuring out my life, still am to this day. But I was like, all right, I still kind of want to own a practice, but I'd noticed something. I worked at my practice as a tech. They were very unique. Then I took my full-time GP job. That was night and day difference, both good. But I was like, these practices are run very different. And then my ER was run different as well. So I had this light bulb moment and I was like, wow, I worked at 3 different practices. They're all different. I wonder what else I can learn. Every practice has its own strengths and weaknesses. What other management skills can I learn by adventuring? And then the other thing was, at that point, I was like, time to buy a practice. But buying practices is hard. This was in the height of VCA, just buying everybody getting bought. So I was like, maybe I can network and find someone who wants to sell to me or at least get the word out there. So that's when I was like, I'm going to go hospital to hospital. And Mike Johnson at the time was like, again, great guy. He's like, what you're doing is called relief. So I was like, have you ever heard of this, Mike? Like, has anyone ever considered like being a traveling vet? And he looked at me like I was a talking goose. And he was like, yeah, it's called relief. You would be good at it. Relief. Cool. Never heard of that, but let's go do it. So that's what led me on my quest to go do relief. I did that for some time. And again, that's why I have worked at almost 100 different hospitals. It wasn't just, I want to be random. It's how many different hospital types can I see? How many different kinds of leaders and teams and structures can I get under my belt so that I can really be this guy who can solve problems in VetMed by seeing all the problems I can. So that's what led me to the world of relief. And I have plenty of adventure stories I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, and I think you started around 2016. And it
Correct.
remind me, I mean, you hadn't heard of relief. Mike did, but was this like really common in 2016? Because I want to say it didn't really get super common until maybe a little bit later. Were you kind of early to it?
Yeah, I was definitely early to it. It didn't get popular until like 2019, we'll say, give or take. I don't know why. And there's also a story of encouragement too. I really like, again, for better or worse, I really like proving naysayers wrong, respectfully, nicely, but wrong. And there are people who told me, if you don't do an internship, Andrew, you'll never be not even a competent doctor, like a confident doctor. You'll always be kind of shaky and unconfident. And I proved I, I could do it without it. Then I had some people, well-intended, tell me, before you do relief, Andrew, because you won't have a support structure, you'll need to have 5 or 7 years experience. Like you can't do relief with 1 year of experience. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I can. So I built a WhatsApp group, and I met you not too long after with like our little business club. I basically built support communities to be like, hey, we're all new grads or new graduates. Like, let's have an area where we can talk to each other and answer questions. I jumped on Vin, but that was another fun thing for relief, is proving like you can really set your own story. If you set your mind to something, you don't have to listen when people say you can't do this. You essentially have to be old to be successful.
And you said you had a lot of stories you could probably pull from this time, and hopefully we can pull one. But you mentioned how we met, and how we met was actually in a non-veterinary business interest group that we got together. So how did you find them? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So I was the co-founder of that, along with my friend David. David was a friend of mine from undergrad. He went to Davis as well. We both had jobs. He worked in biotech. I'm a vet, obviously. But we both had this side interest where we're like, man, there's more to the world. There's like stock and public speaking. I don't know anything about this LinkedIn thing. And we're like, well, why don't we just put together a group? We'll take turns, like once a month, every 6 weeks, someone can do research and a presentation on it. GIB stands for growth income business. And the idea is it's just like, yeah, we're all share our knowledge and all kind of grow together. Because one thing he found was similar to what I found in vet med. They had a lot of specialists, a lot of people who want to talk about biotech all day. But when he's like, does anyone want to talk about real estate? Has everyone bought a rental property before? Everyone was just like, no, we're biotech. We don't do that. And same thing on the vet med side. I'm like, anyone want to talk about stock? They're like, no, man, like we're vets. We don't do that. So that was the cause. And that's before we even had your podcast. And I was so excited to meet you too, because you're like, yeah, I want to build businesses. And we're like, that's the best, man. What do you want to build? He's going to be great. We haven't built anything yet, but we know we're going to do stuff.
You got to start somewhere. Oh, yeah. Well, surrounding yourself with some of the other can-do attitude people is helpful, because something you've talked about it is kind of a theme is this fear of failure. And so you're going to have a lot of naysayers that you encounter. And so being very intentional in who you surround yourself with to support you from a spiritual, and when I say spiritual, I mean like emotional, like getting you in the right mindset, that kind of thing, as well as skill sets that you're trying to learn. And sometimes you have to be the one to start it too. You can't always depend on finding it or that it already exists. Sometimes you have to be the proactive one and say, hey, let's get on a Zoom call.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something that's important to me. Maybe we can save this for later, talk about it now if you want. But like, yeah, as a leader, just as someone who grows in life, like things go up, things go down. I mentioned lightly to you, but like that's a little bit of the issue I have with the Peter Principle. The Peter Principle, summarized, says that leaders or people in general will rise to their level of incompetence. And what that means in true form is like, hey, most people continue to rise in their career until they kind of outgrow where they should be. The discussion and debate comes in from some people saying, okay, so let's say I'm a veterinarian. I'm working at a practice. They're like, hey, Andrew, you become practice manager. Congrats. Maybe I'm really good as a veterinarian, but I'm not such a good team leader. The Peter Principle says, well, that makes sense. You climbed too far. You're now incompetent. And that incompetency is basically going to continually be annoying to everybody, for lack of a better term. Some people say, hey, you should step down, get out of the way, go back to your most recent level of competency. I would step down as a medical director and be like, I'm better just being a vet. Those are the two options people present. I really feel like there should be a third option. No one's going to be perfect at something right away. Like, well, we're not automatically downloaded with the knowledge in how to be a leader or how to do accounting or whatever else. So I kind of like to laugh at the Peter Principle and be like, the only way to grow beyond your competency is to continue to push yourself. If I use a running example, I can't run 10 miles today. I can only run 5 miles. But if I keep running 5 miles and six, eventually I'll build up stamina and get my way up there. So I like to encourage other leaders who are like, I want to do X. I want to build a company or even want to do something, but I'm not good at it or I don't know how to do it. Great. That is literally how everybody starts. The fun, the tears, whatever you want to call it, is the process of getting good at it.
Yeah. When you talked about the Peter principle, it actually made me go to veterinary technicians, because I feel like that's what we do to vet techs. Is a vet
Yep.
tech gets really good in what they do. They become the senior on the floor, and then they, what's the next thing is like, well, you're a senior, so I guess now you can be practice manager. And some of them are like, well, I don't want to be a manager. What? But that's just like the assumed position that they go, and it's and of course they just get put there. They don't get any support oftentimes, so then they
Yep.
feel like they're just bad at something. It's an opportunity to assess what you want. Don't be afraid to, like, if that is like, if this does seem like a goal that you have, is going and figuring out, learning along the way, whether it's going to CE courses or talking to other practice managers about the time they felt stupid too and first started, and like how they got beyond that. So absolutely.
Man, what a great example. Because, yeah, we take a really good technician who can place a catheter in the most dehydrated chihuahua, and we tell them, hey, your next step as a practice manager, get really good at inventory management and conflict resolution. Those are completely different skill sets. It's not fair to point at someone and be like, well, you were really good at drawing blood. You've ruined your career now by trying to lead people. Like, no, we have to give people the time and the training to navigate all of those things and continue to grow.
Yeah, exactly. And it's uncomfortable, right? Like to feel like you're not good at something. And I think maybe when we get older, it's worse. And maybe that's what they were talking about, is like, go do emergency now while you feel like you're in that learning growth mode anyway, until you get older, where, if something takes long to learn, like you're just, the easy way is just to not, right?
Yep.
So yeah, kind of coming back to that. Yeah, a very good point. So back to your stories and the world of Relief. You were in Relief doing a lot of different things. You said hundreds of hospitals. I mean, who knows how many different lessons, but like, what are some that stood out that really have stuck with you, that helped you, whether it's help you find your own values or what you are going to do next in your career? What were some of those stories and moments?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, I found that even the biggest, most fancy hospital had something they struggled with. And even the most humble, tiny practice had something they did uniquely well. Again, everyone had their own strengths and weaknesses. The practices that really thrived are the ones who had almost the spirit of all creatures, great and small. And that doesn't mean that they treated every kind of patient, but they had a united goal of helping customers and helping their pets, like really just trying to be like, how can we problem solve? How can we troubleshoot? The interesting thing for me is that that took many different shapes, which makes sense. There's a lot of different shapes of people and dogs. I'll never forget, I had this one hospital I worked at North. It was my first time working there. I was supposed to be a GP. I walked in, it wasn't a Banfield, and they had 12 drop-offs for me already. And I was like, 12 drop-offs? And it was 7:45 in the morning, Megan. And I could kind of see over the text shoulder, because I'd never met her before. Shannon, lovely person. My calendar was fully booked too. And so part of me, of course, I'm a human. I can be a little frustrated and be like, did they triple book me for a whole day? And there's like procedures and stuff like that. But instead of getting mad, I was like, hey, Shannon, you said I have 12 drop-offs already. This is my first day here. What? We have 12 drop-offs. What are we doing here? And she looked confused for a second, like, doesn't everyone work this way? And then she was like, oh, well, we're in a commuter town. Everyone drives like 1 to 2 hours for work. So basically everyone drops off their pet at 7 a.m. We have slots for you to call the owners. They know what time to expect a call. They've all worked it out with their work schedule. So you basically have the next 6 hours to work up cases, to talk to owners and get outcomes. And Megan, I loved it. It was one of the most refreshing experiences because I could not only do physical exams, but I could call owners and say, hey, we want to do blood work and x-rays. Here's my concerns. As an example, the lady was like, okay, I'm going to call my husband and chat with him. I'll chat with you in half an hour. It wasn't this exam room pressure where it's like, this is a 20-minute appointment. I got to get this wrapped up. Sorry, lady, you got to decide now. I'm going to be behind. I could move fluidly through the whole day. And at the end of the day, Again, my shift ended at 5. They stayed open until 7 for clients to come pick up. The owners, Megan, were so genuinely appreciative. They were like, I work, it's like Tuesday. I couldn't wait until Saturday and I didn't want to go to ER. I'm so thankful that you guys like accommodate my schedule and could let me drop off. We didn't charge extra. That was another interesting thing. I know some hospitals charge for that. It was just a core part of their model, Megan, that they did drop offs like that. And then it was interesting because like 2 years later, I was working down in LA and I worked at a hospital that did the same thing, but different. They had open admission from 8 a.m. until 11:30. So the lobby, I'm not exaggerating, was filled with like 30 people. Everyone got loaded up. I was still taking histories with that one, but then everyone left their pets. They're like, discharges at 6, regardless if your dog's just getting sub-Q fluids or a full work, whatever else. Pickup windows at 6. So it created this very focused, unique work experience where I had time to talk to other doctors. I had more time to call clients. The more I traveled, the more I saw just a lot of different unique ways. The medicine stayed the same for the most part, but just a lot of unique ways to work with clients to give good outcomes to them. So I love that. There's also some crazy days. Like I worked in this one hospital, it was like 4 hours in the middle of nowhere, Megan. This town, although nice people, was just a T intersection, single stop sign, like no stoplight. They had a gas station that was also the grocery store, a couple of houses. The vet office was like 5 minutes up the road. The vet office was a single room. Like the exam room was the lobby, was the bath, all of it was just right there. But again, the clients were still motivated. Medicine was a little different there, and that often people weren't doing major workups. And it was a lot more like feral cats and farm dogs and stuff like that. But when I was able to take a knee and still talk to owners, they still showed that same gratitude. They were still just excited to see their dogs or know that their pets were going to get better. So finding that common thread in that was really exciting.
Well, what I hear with that is one, there's no one right way to do something.
Yep.
That problem solving aspect that you love so much is understanding the situation, the people, the needs, and adjusting the right solution to that unique need. When you listen to your client and to the need, and you provide the right solution for that need, people are going to be grateful.
Yeah. Well said. Another funny story. I had to neuter a Great Dane. This thing was 6'4". I'm 6'3". You know, I'm a tall guy. It was so big. And I had, of course, the tiniest tech to ever live. Her and I are doing this as a teeny little practice. We put the dog up on the surgery table with no small amount of grunting. Megan, the dog is taller than the table. Its head and its like lower abdomen are hanging off the table. And I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. So it's that same troubleshooting and being like, I don't have an extra surgery table. What am I going to do? So we moved the anesthesia machine around and we neutered the dog on the ground. Still did sterile field and everything else. I put out a drape, layered it all up. But never in my wildest dreams did I imagine like I'd be doing a neuter on the ground. But you just never know what that med's going to throw at you.
It keeps it interesting. So, I mean, you got all this experience and you happen to be able to help a company that was all about relief work. And I've actually interviewed Charlotte from Rue. And so it's a very interesting story. But how did you learn about Rue and what were you excited about? Back to the being a leader and being able to support large numbers of people with all this experience that you had. What was that kind of journey for you?
Yeah. So at that point in my career, that was like 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, okay, I've done the relief. I've seen the spots. Again, it's not a bad way to live life, but I'm just never content to just stay in the same spot. So I was like, what should I do next? And I was back to the same old thing of like, do I buy some practices? I kind of tried some, but it was still kind of up in there. And I was like, maybe I'm thinking too inside the box. Again, if I can help X amount of people with one practice, how can I help even more people? And growing up in California, like I was very familiar with startup culture. David Tsai was working at a startup at the time. And he was like, man, it's so fast paced. Like we make a decision on Monday and it's in place on Tuesday. Like we're just trying to change the world. And I was like, that sounds cool. I want to work where I want to change the world, but I want it in veterinary style. So I spent about a year looking for the right startup, looking through Crunchbase and AngelList and meeting up with people on LinkedIn, just really trying to find the right thing to dive headlong into, as it were, until I finally found Rue. And I was like, relief, I know all about that. So I reached out to a couple of employees. I basically spammed a whole bunch of people at Rue. Again, there was like less than 10 people at the time. But I reached out to our CEO at the time, Lisa, and I was like, hey, Lisa, I've never met you before, but I know a lot about relief, and I think I have the skill set you need to help grow this company, and I want to be involved as much as I can. And Lisa was like, you're kind of forward and a little quirky, but I think you're right. So I went through some interviews, met Charlotte. She was like the second person I talked to. right off the bat, I was like, Shar is amazing, so knowledgeable, so passionate. And so they hired me on. My job changed a lot over obviously the 4 years. It started off just very, very light. I was supposed to fly to LA and work some shifts, almost as like a pseudo ambassador. But over 4 years, I eventually probably worked my way up to chief vet, again, bringing relief from I'll make the joke that like relief used to be two kinds of people who wanted to do it for work-life balance or money or whatever else, and people who did relief because no one wanted to work with them very much. And so we were able with Rue to grow that first number a lot and be like, look, relief is great pay, work-life balance, and less so where it's like people do relief because they're kind of different. Yeah. So it was a great time.
Well, good. Yeah. When we talked to Charlotte, she kind of was in the mindset of being able to help clinics welcome the relief. So kind of like the other way around, which was interesting too, to know how to make the relief vet happy and feel like they want to come back. But then also you have this entrepreneur spirit again, when we were talking about the business club and things like that. Did this also allow you to flex some entrepreneurial muscles or be able to dive in more into understanding how startups work and things like that at all?
Very much so. Again, before Rue, I knew of like the idea of boards. I knew about the idea of like venture capital, VC versus private equity, and like how to do just all that kind of stuff very lightly. But living through it is a great way to teach you like, hey, here's about safe agreements and everything else. And the more I learned about it, the more I was like, this is really exciting. This is really great. And learn, like you said, right alongside Charlotte. She was always like one of my best friends there and an excellent partner in crime, we'll say. But yeah, it got me really excited to realize there's a lot of ways to build businesses. And even beyond that, and I say this with all the respect in the world, when they started building Rue, they didn't build it knowing this will 100% be successful. This is exactly what the world wants. They came in very humble and they're like, we think we see a problem and we're going to try to fix it. Let's just take it one step at a time. I'll forever be grateful to David Strauss and Mervyn and Char and all of them for being like, yep, the only way to really build a successful business is to take it one step at a time. So that was a huge leap for me, entrepreneur-wise, to realize that. And they've been working on Rue for years before I even came in. Again, everyone wants to get to the big ending where it's like, yay, we're a big company. Let me tell you this, the beginning years are so slow and so tiny, and each little thing you do matters. So yeah, seeing all of that firsthand was great. And then as we grew, getting to network with other people and getting to go from trade show to trade show. I'll never forget like my first trade show with them. We had a little 10 by 10 booth. We had like 4 business cards. We weren't prepared. We were new. And like all of our stuff was just a mess, Megan. And so it was great. But we still made friends. We still got to talk to people about relief. We still got to share that message, as it were. And each year as we got a little bigger and a little bigger up until last year, even this year, where we have like a big booth. We got like one of the bigger ones. And having people watch us over half a decade and be like, wow, look, you guys grew a lot. It's like, we did it, team. It's not just me. Like, we all did it together. That I've never had a feeling quite like that, being so proud of everyone who's been able to help grow that, as it were.
Being willing to start small and do things slowly can be hard because, again, I think there's a lot of us that, if I can't have this done by tomorrow, then that sounds like a lot of work. And again, bringing back the fear of failure, you said, a lot of times the fear of failure is actually the counter to success. Like that fear is what's going to get in your way to get to where you want to go. And so whether it's taking a risk or doing things one step at a time to make sure you're doing it well and correctly and then adjust from there is huge. And I think that can be applied to our own career journeys is, try something one step at a time. That's what I encourage because I think people get overwhelmed. It's like, well, I'm not happy here. It's like, well, just try something a little bit different and that can get you into the right direction. The other thing too is working in this setting with a team. Everybody has their contribution. I'm a big brainstormer and an idea person too. And when you have all these things in your head, thoughts and experiences and ideas, and they may be amazing ideas, but if they don't work with that step that everybody else is at, like it can be shut down and that can be very vulnerable and really hard too. So any comment, your personal experience or any comfort to others who might be in the same
Yeah,
situation?
absolutely. The best way to put it is your first idea, V1, is pretty much never going to work. I've done many V1s all the way through V45s, I'm sure. Failure is a feature, not a bug. If you're failing, that's normal. The exception is when things go really, really well. don't feel bad about that. That's something to be proud about. I mean, take the Thomas Edison approach where he failed 99 times and he said, I found 99 ways to not make a light bulb. I know it sounds a little silly, borderline a meme, but like it really is encouraging. The other thing to remember is that there's everyone. That's another great thing about Rue and other companies since is I constantly talk to other founders, CEOs, big companies, small. I just talked to the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company just the other month. And I was like, hey, you're in the chair everyone wants to be in. Like, you've made it. Like, this is big time. You're going to do an IPO and you've done it since day one. He was a founder. I was like, does it get any easier? Is it like smooth sailing at this point? And he told me without any hesitation, no, Andrew, it never gets easier. The problems change, but there's always problems or always opportunities, we'll say. I don't know. I find that encouraging. I'm pretty glass half full, but it's nice to know just because I or someone else is tiny doesn't mean we're doing something wrong. We're just taking it a step at a time. I mean, we both have kids too. My kids are older. They still trip. I still trip and fall. My wife makes so much fun of me tripping up the stairs. Doesn't mean I can't walk somewhere. It just means that's part of
And yes, you just keep going. Well, now you're on to a new project. I feel like a lot of your story is, okay, what's next? And you do have a what next. Although, like what you said, this is not brand new. It's been
Yep.
in the works for a while. It's just, it started small and one step at a time. And I think you had a very eager person come to you with a unique background. And so tell us a little bit about Vetsie and how that got started.
Yeah. So Vetsie is really exciting. I've been working with the Vetsie team for over 4 years, coming up on 5 now. Met my good friend Alex Chang there, really great guy, absolutely passionate along with his little team with like improving the lives of pets. And I was like, wow, you guys are great. Yeah, let's brainstorm ways that we can build together. And so over the 4 years, we've done telemedicine. We've done like a pet walking app. Again, with startups, guys, pivoting is normal. It's normal to be like, this is not working well. Either we need to change what we're doing or we need to change the problem we're solving. They've done a bit of both. But finally, recently, they're like, Andrew, we're excited, we're proud, but we wouldn't hate it if someone wanted to just come in and say what we should do next. And I was like, well, I know what I want to do next. I want to fix things in VetMed. I want to make the world brighter. So started building Vetsie almost from scratch. We've got a really exciting product now. We're a clinical library powered by AI. I say that because I kind of roll my eyes at, how it is. There's like a billion AI companies out there. We're different. Think of us as a competitor to like Vin or things like that. I love Vin. I harass Paul at Vin all the time. If I want to find exactly what a veterinarian said on Vin, after searching for 45 minutes, I'll find it. If I want what a textbook said or a peer-reviewed article or university said, that's what Vetsie's for. We'll get you any answer you need clinically in 15 seconds or less. And it's been really exciting, not only to build that from the ground up, but just to talk to other veterinarians, to get insight, to get recommendations, and really trying to find out, well, what's the hardest thing about like what we're doing in veterinary medicine? How do we talk to owners better? So yeah, it's been an absolute blast.
So it even helps on that side of things on how to talk to pet owners better? Say more.
Yeah, so we just kind of so I can walk in and be like, this is what I just gave a lecture on earlier. I can walk in and be like, I've got a pet with a torn ACL. I'm going a little bit against the grain. Actually, ACVIM is as well. And that gold standard has become kind of problematic. The gold standard for treatment is a TPLO. Not arguing that. But what VetMed has evolved to for some people is you can have a TPLO or you can have nothing. Just go get a TPLO. And clients need more options. I can give your whole lecture on like spectrum of care and like costs and everything else. But as a veterinarian, I don't know all the orthopedic facts in my head. So I can type it into Vetsie and be like, hey, give me the research. What does the peer-reviewed article say on orthopedic options for a torn CCL? And in doing the research, I was like, wow, TPLOs have a 90% plus success rate, but I didn't know that around 5 to 10% of them can fail. That's crazy. Extra caps, which again, people have mixed feelings on, they have an 80 to 85% success rate. And although we all know that the rope or suture will fail over time, there's studies that have come out that I haven't read because I don't have time to just read JAVMA all day, every day. It sits next to my desk. That if that suture stays intact for a year, that's actually enough time for healthy fibrosis and scar tissue to build over the joint. So if the snaps, we don't actually care anymore. But when we don't do anything, that joint has so much mobility, it never provides protective scar tissue until it turns into like a big old chunk of scar tissue. So now being able to present to owners and be like, you can have almost 100% success here. You can have 80% success here, but for half the cost, even if it's a large breed dog, you can do chronic NSAIDs. And it even told me like, hey, what's the success rate for splinting? Like, it's always cool to read about orthopedic splints. I've had clients ask me about that. Before I would have to be honest and be like, I don't know. I haven't read the papers on it. That thing pulled up the papers in just a second and said, hey, although it's somewhat decent, 45 to 48% of pets have skin lesions, essentially skin sores that form from it. 11% of pets won't tolerate it at all. Now I can offer my clients 4 options out all at once instead of just saying TPL or bust. I can help them discuss the pros and the cons and figure out what's going to work for them and their dog and feel like I'm doing more options for this dog rather than just telling it, here's your arthritis, have fun. And then once it does all of that, I can tell Vetsie, now turn all this into an 8th grade reading level and make it a client-friendly discharge instruction or a client-friendly handout. It will do all of that. I can tell it condense it down to 1 page. It really has been a game changer for just enhancing my communication while also saving me time. It's been really fun.
That's really cool. So, I mean, on this journey, AI feels like a buzzword right now. And that's why you even said you want to roll your eyes when you hear about, oh, another AI company. What have you learned about AI on this journey so far? I'm sure tons, like that's such a open-ended question, but pertaining to you getting more comfortable with it, understanding where we are in veterinary medicine with it, where's it going to go? Like, what have you been learning?
So I described AI similar to a calculator. It can make things easier and faster, but all it's going to do is enhance the things that we're already doing. AI is never going to replace veterinarians. I've had a lot of scared veterinarians come up and tell me, oh, it's just a matter of time until this thing becomes a vet and we don't have jobs anymore. I can tell you 100% that's not the case. AI isn't even the I part. It's not intelligent. It doesn't actually think. It just looks for patterns and recognition. And that's why I tell people again, like, I really wanted to build an all-encompassing library instead of me having to pull Fossum's book off the shelf and turn to page 1298 for how to do a gastropexy. Just having it sourced easier and consolidated. That's the way AI is going to work. So again, AI is definitely here to stay. AVMA did a study that said, I want to say 79% of all veterinary professionals are using AI to some extent already. So everyone's adopted it fairly well. I look outside the window, Megan, I don't see flying cars or anything like that. Like, it's one of those, the future's coming. Well, the future's here. It's just a small tool in my toolbox, the same way a computer is, the same way everything else is, but it's never going to totally turn the world upside down in my mind. What are your thoughts on it, though? I'd love to hear.
Oh, what? I'm very optimistic. I'm very intrigued. I love to learn about it. I think a lot of it too is one of the benefits of Vetsie is that a lot of AI is as good as the information that's put into it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what you're doing is okay, this is not ChatGPT. It's not like skimming Billy Bob Joe's blog. It's very intentionally fed what we would normally go and try ideally look for to get this information. But ultimately, like you said, it's not going to remove the clinician because going back to access to care or the kind of an adjacent is contextualized care. Ultimately, we have a single animal in front of us, because I think this can extend beyond cats and dogs, right? We have an animal in front of us and a human attached. And you have to find what is right in that context. And some of that is it should make our job really fun. It goes back to that problem solving, right? Like it's there's not like a textbook answer, right? It's we can get information, so we have all these options, but now we can sit down together and say what makes sense for this patient, for this family. And so you have to have a human being who can put all that into context. And some of the skills that I think we'll all need to emphasize is that communication skill, a listening skill, being able to gather all the right information to make sure we do understand the need that's in front of us, and then source all the options and then tie it all together in a nice bow. So I don't think that a machine can fully understand some of the nuances that come with that human and pet component. So yeah, I think we'll always have a role. There might be some additional skill sets that we more want to work on, but yeah, there will always be a need, I think, for a human component. And I even had someone challenge me. It's like, if you could have a robot, an AI, something where you just walk in and it's all robots and to try to diagnose something. And because they're all robots, they have a very high likelihood of accurately identifying your issue, or walking in with some human components what would you feel more comfortable with? And I thought about it, and the stake on the line is something lethal. Like this
Yeah.
could be diagnosing something lethal. And I just didn't love the idea of like just walking in with a bunch of robots to give me that information. Like there's always going to be that human component. One to take all the information and make sure that it's appropriately explained to me and we find the right path forward. But there's also that level, I'm sorry, it's a little touchy-feely, but it's like there's this human connection that I think is
Yep.
so crucial that again, I think there might be a few people that are like, no, give me the robot. But I think that there will always be a majority of people who really need that human touch.
Agreed. That's what makes life special. And the same goes for pets, Megan. If I could give you a perfect robo dog that never got sick, never did anything, and like was dog size, I'm not talking about Tamagotchi, it'd be really sad. Like the fun of life, the joy of life is the asymmetricalness, like the beauty with the fall and everything else. Like it's just imperfections are part of life. So like I'm right there with you. I like people quite a bit. AI is a tool, but yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah. So what's next for Vetsie? What are you most excited about now? And what are you wanting to sing from the rooftops?
Super excited for Vetsie. We're just continuing to grow. We're speaking at conferences, we're doing webinars, we're working on studies, working with universities. I'm thankful and grateful to say like the profession so far has had a really positive response with it. So we're going to be doing a big events at VMX, WVC, and so on from there. So we're really excited about that. One other thing I'll leave you as a little nugget, because like you said, there's always a next thing, although I'm very happy with this thing and very happy with my day job as well, because I have that as well. But working with Alex, who co-founded with me, Vetsie, we actually are just launching Pawsible, which is really exciting. So for all my veterinary entrepreneurs who have an interest in this, Pawsible, first and foremost, it's free. It's an investment group. It's a venture capital fund, but we have what's called an incubator. And for those of you guys who don't know, incubators are not for companies who are making money, not even a little bit. This is for everyone free who's like, hey, I've always dreamed of building an app for a company or whatever else. And I just wish I could talk to someone about it. I wish I could bounce ideas off of someone about it. We're putting together for next year a 6-week incubator course, again, completely free, where you can come, we can build it with you. So for any veterinary entrepreneurs who want to build something, next year's going to be your time. Because I can tell you the companies that have done the best in the industry, I'm talking Plums, I'm talking Shepherd, I'm talking Avamark. Those things were all founded and built by veterinarians. No one builds it like vets do it. These are for people to come in and copy, but no one knows their profession better than us. So anyone who has that dream, I'm excited to talk with you about that too.
You're looking specifically for veterinary professionals. Okay.
Correct.
Awesome.
Wicked. Yes, or text, but yes, anyone who wants to build a business and wants to have a helping hand or advice or anything like that, yes, send them over my way. We're excited to make recommendations.
I love that. Well, I always like to end on this one question. What is something that you personally are very, very grateful for right now? Just whatever first comes to your mind.
I'm very grateful for people in my life telling me I can do it. That's all the veterinary mentors I had. That's my parents and everything else. And I'm equally as grateful for the people who told me I couldn't do it, because that kind of motivation goes a long way too.
Yeah. You just have to have a balance of both.
Well said. Yes, you shouldn't have too much of one or the other. A good balance of both, man, that gets me motivated.
If you've listened to a few episodes, you know that I love the words curiosity and possibility. Andrew lives by these words every day. His willingness to try and his belief that we, especially people in vet med, can build solutions for a better tomorrow is the kind of thinking that will shape an amazing future for our profession. Thank you to Andrew for sharing his journey, his lessons, and his vision for what veterinary medicine can become. Tune in next week for another veterinarian and co-founder of an impressive company with a vision for the future of pet care. A special thank you, as always, to Dr. Kelly Cooper for supporting the podcast and helping make conversations like this possible. If you're interested to help out the podcast in that way too, click the support the show link in the show notes. The show notes also have a number of resources, including ones mentioned in the episode. And if this episode resonated with you, taught you something, or sparked an idea, please take a moment to follow or subscribe to the show and share it with a colleague. We've got more to come as we look ahead to the future, so stay curious and let's keep reimagining what's possible in veterinary life.